All right, back to the story now. It's more than a day since the Joburg explosion had occurred, which claimed one life and left over 48 people injured. Lillian Ngoyi, still popularly known though as Bree Street, remains closed indefinitely, and the source of the underground explosion is still being probed by technical experts. So our reporter, eNCA's Heidi Giokos, is back on that particular street, but joins me now for the very latest in terms of developments out in Lillian Ngoyi Street. Heidi, a very warm good morning to you. I mean, what's the very latest you can tell us? Have you reached some sort of a near or a close possibility of what could have been the root cause of this explosion?
Unfortunately not, Tumelo. We are none the wiser once again as to what truly happened here. It's almost 48 hours later. Well, tonight it will be 48 hours later, and we still do not know exactly what could have caused that explosion. I mean, if you look at that CCTV footage that was released yesterday, it is mind-boggling to even try and think what could have possibly happened here. I think what's concerning, though, is the fact that residents in this area, businesses in this area cannot operate because we do know that the water and electricity in this area and nearby areas has been switched off indefinitely. We do not know when it's going to be switched back on. Of course, they are still trying to do their investigation, so it's going to take some time. But I'm going to try and just give you some perspective as to what is going on here. We do understand that yesterday there was a technical briefing that was conducted by the city of Johannesburg. We do know that 250 members of JMPD will be deployed per shift in this area. I mean, that does sound rather alarming and rather large, but this is, of course, what the city manager did indicate in the technical briefing yesterday, that they have to deploy as many JMPD officers as possible in the area. They've also put barbed wire all across this area and this section, and this is, of course, to try and avoid any vehicle using this section that has been damaged. We do know that it is about 400 meters that has been affected by this explosion that did happen. So, you might have a chance here and there trying to use the road that is not damaged, which is on my right-hand side if you're looking at the streets going up. So, there is a risk that people might take an opportunity to use this. But it's very sad to see that these businesses are now not going to be able to operate because this section has basically been completely shut off from the rest of the CBD. Of course, those that are staying in these apartment blocks will be able to move in and out, as we have been told yesterday from that technical briefing at 8 o'clock last night, that the buildings in this area are technically sound and stable, which means that they have not been damaged at all. It is just the road and the infrastructure of the road that has been severely damaged, Tumelo.
And Heidi, just when it comes to, the smell in the area, there have been some, people saying that they could still smell the gas. I think I also spoke to Isaac Mangena yesterday, if I remember correctly, hearing him as well, saying he reiterates the calls for people not to make use of those areas, the streets that have been cordoned off because of a possibility of a smell, but also a secondary danger of a collapse potentially occurring while they're still trying to establish what the problem is. From where you stand, Heidi, do you smell anything?
It's interesting that you're asking the issue of gas, because we've just seen an eGoli gas van pull up here. It's driving towards the JMPD offices, which is interesting that eGoli gas is still on site, given the fact that we were told that eGoli gas, Sasol yesterday were on site, and they came to the conclusion that they did not at all contribute to this explosion as their pipelines are still intact. I do not smell gas at this particular point, but maybe it's just because I'm really cold at this moment. Tumelo, it's bitterly cold in Johannesburg, so I don't smell any gas today. Yesterday I did smell gas though, and of course the night of when this explosion happened, and many people had been asking, but what do you smell? And it's a weird smell, but it's almost like a rotten egg smell that normally is picked up when there is a bit of a gas leak. I have not picked that up here today, and it's probably because all the pipes have been switched switched off. So we do know that the water, the electricity, the sewer and the gas pipelines have since been switched off just to avoid any kind of secondary impact that could possibly happen. I think, though, it's going to be tricky for the city to try and get the water and electricity up again because we don't know what caused this explosion. There's a lot of confusion as to what could possibly happen should the water and electricity be switched back on. We do know that small businesses, vendors, those that have barbershops, those that sell food on the side of the roads were literally asked to not do that at all because we don't know what's in the air, we don't know if there's gas in the air, and that could be concerning. I'm seeing another Egoli gas van pulling up, so it's going to be important for the city to explain what exactly is going on. Maybe it's just for measure control, and maybe they are just trying to stabilize the pipelines. Why they are coming here today, we're not sure. I've reached out to the Premier's office to find out if there is going to be a briefing. We haven't been told if there's going to be a briefing anytime soon. But I will also try and engage with residents in this area, but it seems as though everyone is literally trying to stay away.
And I understand that, of course, gas detection experts, I suppose including Egoli Gas, have been called in just to come through and assist with trying to establish what exactly is this root cause of the explosion. Before I let you go, though, Heidi, you did mention, unfortunately, the informal businesses being heavily affected by these developments. I saw even some of those businesses on the side being shut down. Residents, obviously, the inconvenience now of having to use some of those apartment buildings, but having to use other blocks, probably even further away from your convenience stores, etc. We can't deny the convenience, but we can see the priority being on saving lives and making sure that no one else is harmed or injured due to the explosion. Did the authorities, give an indication of timelines whatsoever, Heidi, as to when this amount of complex work would actually be completed?
That's the thing, Tumelo, we don't have time frames, and I think that's what's causing a lot of panic at the moment, is that every time we ask time frames, we are told we need to wait for investigations to be concluded before they can, give us any sort of time frame. What I can tell you, though, is that the Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, yesterday in his briefing at around 2:30 did say that Lillian Ngoyi, which is popularly known as Bree Street, everyone knows it as Bree Street, is going to be closed for a very long time. He said that it's going to be very difficult for this to be fixed very quickly, and you can understand the visuals we are showing you. I've never seen something like this. This looks like there was a massive, I don't want to say earthquake, but it's like I just cannot believe that this is something that happened and we still don't know what caused this. So it's still going to be a very long time, especially because of the uncertainty as to what happened. You don't know how far deep the infrastructure was damaged. Looking at what's happening at the moment, it's going to be very difficult to actually really show you, it's going to be actually very difficult for us to really ascertain how much longer this is going to take. But this is going to be very difficult to fix. Tumelo, we are just currently, I hope we don't get into trouble for doing this, because yesterday they were very strict about letting us through here. But you can just see the infrastructure. It's completely damaged. This whole section has been lifted up and literally thrown back into the ground. They're going to have to redo all of this whole infrastructure. You can also see just to my right-hand side, all these businesses have had to, shut down. There is one electronic shop to my back that's still open, but how do people even get into all of this? This road is, you cannot use this road. It's completely damaged. It's going to take a very long time. I think another element that is of concern here is the fact that we don't know how much all of this is going to cost. And is there a budget for it? Are they going to have an emergency budget for it? This is the artery of the CBD. This Bree Street is one of the main streets used in the CBD in terms of businesses, apartments, taxis that operate. Bree taxi rank is literally around the corner. People are highly inconvenienced because of all of this, and it's obviously going to take a very long time for it to be repaired and for it to be sorted out. Every time I see the street, Tumelo, I must tell you that it looks worse every time I see it. It's almost as though as the hours go by, the road just continues to deteriorate. I want to ask you to stay with us, because we have really struggled to actually get to this part of the road, and I want to show you this part here, just further up, if we can just cross the road. This part here is where we actually probably about 11 to 12 taxis that were literally either on their sides or upside down or on their heads. This seems to be where the biggest impact happened. So it does seem as though here, as much as it's not completely caved in like where we just showed you, this where the damage is. We do know it's about 400 meters, but it's so bizarre that this part of the road is far more damaged than the other part, but there's also a strip where there is no damage. So it's so mind-boggling, and this is probably why authorities can't really locate what could have possibly happened and the damage to all of this. What could have sparked this? If they're saying it's not gas, if they're saying it's not water, if they're saying it's not electricity or a sewer pipeline, what could have this possibly been? And actually, this part here, I want to actually just stop here. I think this is where the CCTV footage shows where the actual explosion happened. And there was one gentleman here that literally got spared by a split second, because he literally jumped literally from the pavement, probably into one of these businesses on my left-hand side. This is where the significant damage was, and where most of the taxis were actually parked, Tumelo.
Yeah. Heidi, it's without a doubt, a popular street, quite busy, especially in its peak time. And is there ever a peak time when it comes to Bree Street? Because we know the taxis that usually, pick up commuters there, always busy, doing their work, but also the small businesses, even on the sides, the residents, the commuters, walkers, everyone literally uses that road on a daily. And I can only imagine the trauma that this experience has caused. Just reflecting on the CCTV footage that you referred to, Heidi. I mean, when I'm sure South Africans saw that, not only was it shocking, but then the question then was, is South Africa's roads, kind of caving in at this problem due to whatever reason that we're trying to uncover at this moment. If you're driving, whether it's in Bree, whether it's in Bryanston, in Soweto, in Alexandra, in Limpopo, in the Eastern Cape, could this happen to you at any point? I can imagine the trauma, Heidi. And I just wonder if you did have an opportunity at any point to speak to some of those who were either there or some of those who are walking there, to share their experiences as to what exactly went through their mind when they either saw this or experienced the actual collapse.
Yes, I mean, we have been speaking to people over the past 2 days or so, Tumelo, and people are severely traumatized. I mean, I got a call on Tuesday afternoon with people literally panicking, saying, I have no idea what's just happened in the CBD. It's literally pandemonium. I just want to emphasize the fact that we have not been able to walk this far. We have not been able to see the extent of this damage. I think this is actually the first time we are showing you these visuals of how serious and significant this damage is. I mean, this is mind-blowing to just see what has actually happened here. What I can tell you is there was one individual, there was one gentleman on Tuesday night when he spoke to us. I will never forget the panic in his face. He said to me, I was in a taxi and the taxi was literally flung up in the air while I was in the taxi, and it literally shot back down. And he said he couldn't understand what was happening, but he just said when you looked around him, he just saw taxis in the air, literally. And I think that's the reality of what happened. People were literally going about their days. I mean, you can see from the visuals we are showing you, this street is a hive of activity. It is chock-a-block. It is always busy. I mean, you have anxiety because of how many vehicles are normally on this road, and now it's become a ghost town. I mean, you have all these businesses that are literally shut down now. They are closed because how do people even come to the streets? How do people even use the streets? People are not allowed to be in this area, and I wonder if this also that Teddy is showing you was probably also caused by the impact of the explosion. Most likely, because I can't imagine what else could have possibly caused this. But you can see that things were literally flung up in the air. You can see there's debris of people literally going about their businesses and their daily lives. The tragedy in all of this is that a body was found among the rubble, because we do know that either that individual was walking or might have been, caught in the middle of this when all of this happened. But these visuals are quite alarming and quite shocking. The barbed wire is obviously to avoid anybody trying to walk into this area and not allowing any sort of activity, because we just do not know how safe the infrastructure is. I mean, even us standing here, Teddy and I were speaking about how are we even safe standing here. But, I think the good thing about all of this is the fact that we do know at this point that, according to the city officials, the buildings in the area are structurally sound. So that is a good thing, so people can go back home. But in terms of business and in terms of normal daily activity, it's going to be very different for this area, probably for a very long time.
Well, visuals that we never thought we'd ever see in South Africa. One of the busiest street, if not the busiest street out in Johannesburg CBD, the Bree Street, of course, after that collapse. Those are the visuals we're seeing there. My colleague Heidi Giokos just emphasizing that it's the first time they've actually even reached this far as, members of the media. Understandably, though, because yesterday there were very strict measures in terms of allowing anyone to come even near the debris and, the infrastructure damage. Authorities at the time were not sure the extent of the damage, but also fears of a secondary collapse and the smell of gas still lingering, as some had described yesterday. So we'll continue to show you, of course, what's happening out in Bree Street with Heidi Giokos as soon as there are other developments there for us.